Well, shooters and reloaders out there, 40 Cookie 45 LC coming to you from the Hot Lead Zone. And tonight's video, we're going to go ahead and discuss the die sets from three of our favorite companies, Lyman, Rcbs, and Lee. We're going to discuss the advantages and disadvantages, why we might like one over the other, this kind of thing. Now, Hornady is another company of ours that we really like, and they make die sets also that are on par with the quality and cost of Lyman and Rcbs. So first, let's talk about the Lyman Reloading Die Set, and that's appropriate since Lyman is our oldest reloading company. Now, when you look at the Lyman die set, it's very substantial, very well finished, well executed, and when you hold it, it's simply got a lot of solid feel to it. The knurling is very well executed. It's almost flawless and very clearly engraved. The resizing die has a nice substantial carbide insert that's well protected by the die body. The decapping pin assembly is very simple. It has one rod and an integral decapping pin that's slipped into the locking ring, and when it's in place, you simply screw it onto the die body all the way down, and the adjustment for the length of the pin is automatic. That's nice. Now, the Lyman die lock ring is one of the best in the business, all steel, and they used to make it so that it was a cross screw. This is an earlier Lyman die with an earlier die lock ring. They had a cross screw. The current ones are directed toward the threads, but it really won't cause any damage to your threads when you tighten that down. And Lyman provides you with the necessary Allen wrench to make those adjustments. So you see, that's a very nice die lock ring, and it'll work with all presses, including the Forster. Now, the Lyman neck expander and mouth flaring die is their famous M die, which has a interesting feature in that for many years the other manufacturers would have a flared adjustment to cause the mouth to be flared out. But what Lyman did was have a two-step expander mouth flaring die. The first step provides the neck tension for the bullet, and the second one is a step that creates, instead of a flare, it creates a little fitted step where the bullet sits in there and is flush and square on that step, ready for seating. So the famous Lyman M die had that idea all to itself for quite a while, but we like the Lyman M die. Now, the Lyman bullet seating die is nice because they give you an extra bullet seating stem that's for the round nose bullets, as well as the semi-wad cutter is what this one is. And there's no extra cost, and they even give you another lock nut. But the problem is the lock nut is very flimsy, and it's actually kind of got a cheap look to it and a cheap feel to it. You try and tighten that by hand, that lock nut, and see what happens? It's not tight. So if you want it tight, you've got to use a wrench, and then that causes marring at the top of the die body. That's not appreciated. But you can compensate by being a little extra careful. Now, in the past, that lock nut was actually a little more substantial. It's now so tiny that it's really a problem. Shell holders are not included in these die sets. You've got to buy the shell holders separately. The cost for a Lyman die set is somewhere around $54. But anyone who wants to spend the $54 for one of these die sets is getting commensurate quality that will give lots of satisfaction in our reloading. So you see, I've used lots of Lyman die sets in the past and will continue to use them in the future. Now, Rcbs, another one of our famous reloading companies, been around since the 50s or so, and this is their cowboy die set. I've got three of them here in the different calibers, and this is the 38 357 Magnum, which is very popular among cowboy action shooters. This is the Decapping Resizing Die, of course, and the carbide insert is very nice in there. They're all set in there so that there's no damage to the carbide insert. And then the decapping assembly is the old-fashioned type that has a sleeve with the removable decapping pin. Very complicated assembly here, but it works out nicely. You have to adjust the length to do the decapping, but that's not really that hard to do. Not as nice as the Lyman. The Lyman's automatic. Now, this is all steel except for the brass accoutrements, and that is the brass die lock ring and the little locking ring on top there. Those are brass, and that's nice though. Very attractive die. Now, the engraving isn't very easy to read, but if you catch the light right, you can read it. But this is a nice die. Again, substantial, high quality, nice knurling, and notice that when you set this and all of these die lock rings, all these rings on top here, when you hand tighten it, that's not moving. So you don't need a wrench, and that works real well. Now the Rcbs neck expander mouth flaring die, again, very attractive case hardened look to the die body, contrasted with the brass accoutrements. But you take out the expanding assembly and you'll see that it's a very interesting design in this particular set. It has the portion that will expand the neck to hold the bullet, but then it has a little step like the Lyman M die. And that little step, it looks to me like that's really good for jacketed bullets. But then it has the flare, so that if you're doing cast bullets and you need a little more flare, you just go ahead and put that into the case a little farther and it starts to flare like the Lee dies and this kind of thing, so you can flare it for your cast bullets. So that's really nice. Now, my 45 Colt set has a second expander stem in there. One for jacketed and one for cast bullets, but this one has it in both. And it borrows that two-step idea from the Lyman M die. So that's really nice. I like that. But again, all this knurling is really nice, and when you tighten that thing up, that's not moving. That's really nice. No tools needed. Now, of course, they don't give you the Allen wrench again to tighten this, but you can use the Lyman wrench to do that, or any Allen wrench that you have. Now finally, the bullet seating die, and that's again the same nice quality die. Has a stem for semi-wad cutter bullets, but if you're loading round nose bullets, then you're out of luck, because what will happen is the flange on the semi-wad cutter stem will cut a little ring in your round nose. That won't be very attractive. We don't like that, and they don't give you a second stem for the round nose bullets like Lyman does. So there's a little bit of a problem there. You have to order another stem for a round nose bullet, or you also have to order a shell holder because they don't give you one of those. They don't give you the little Allen wrench. So these dies don't give you a lot of what you need. You have to get those a la carte. Now these dies are in the $60 range, but if you want something that gives you more joy to reload, spend those 2-3 hours at a time reloading, and you amortize the money over many years, it's really not significant. These are good dies. Now, Lee die sets. Lee die sets are lower in cost. Like for instance, a 4 die set's like $40, $43, something of that nature. And even though the cost is low, the value is very high because these are actually quality dies. When it comes to performance, they're quality. When it comes to fit and finish of these dies, it's not as good. Notice there, can you see all the tool marks that are still on this? And sometimes you'll see tool marks on this upper part also. You'll see scratches, and you see little scratches and little dings on the aluminum parts. And we cringe when we see the aluminum parts. Like this is aluminum, that's aluminum here, that's aluminum. and then there's rubber parts in there. But it turns out that the durability of these dies is not in question. They last. And they work. Good carbide insert. Well-engineered decapping pin. It's integral, one piece, and then if you hit this pin and push it up, it just comes out the top here, and you just loosen it up, push it back down, and when you get that even to the top of this nut and tighten it down, that is the right adjustment. So it's well engineered. The powder through neck expander and mouth flaring die flares that kind of gives you a little blunderbuss mouth flare, but that works fine. The bullet, you just have to take a little extra time to get that straight when you seat the bullet, but it works fine. No problem with that. And it has a nice powder through ability, so you take this off and you can put Lee auto drum powder measures or other kind of powder measures by Lee right to this die, and it's press activated, so that works real well. The cedar die, they don't give you a lot of stems, but I just go ahead and flatten it down like this, and it'll fit most any bullet style that you want. So that works real well for me. That's the cedar die. And then they give you the Lee Factory Crimp Die, which has a carbide insert that doesn't resize the final round. What it does is it irons out little bulges that will interfere with functioning. And then the crimp is one of the best crimps in the business, fully adjustable for light, medium, or heavy crimp. Now, if you don't like those Lee dialogue rings, and a lot of shooters, reloaders don't like those with a passion, well, all you gotta do is replace them. Replace them with high quality steel dialogue rings, and that makes the whole die look much more quality. And these aren't that expensive, and sometimes you can get them off of other die sets and not even have to pay any money for them. So look at this resizing die here. Looks like a lot of quality when you put that dialogue ring on there. Then you just overlook the machine marks there. So anyway, I like Lee die sets enough that I have a Lee die set for every caliber that I own. Can't say that for other die manufacturers, but for Lee, I have them for every caliber. And in some calibers, I have more than one set. In addition to the die sets from the other manufacturers like Lyman and Rcbs, it's just good to have a lot of die sets around. Never know when you're going to need a good die set. So anyway, whatever die set you wind up getting, they will all work for you, and it's possible that you won't be able to tell the ammunition loaded from one die set to another. They're all good. We're lucky in reloading that we have such good die sets available to us. Now, we didn't mention Hornady. Hornady makes very good die sets also. If you're a Hornady fan, that's fine. They make cowboy dies also, like the Rcbs, and their cost is like $55, something like that, for their higher quality sets, but they have a lower cost die line called the American, and those are made to rival the cost spent for Lee dies. They even give you a shell holder in those, so you can go with Hornady. And if you like ultra high quality and you believe that there's more precision with Reading dies, then Reading dies will give you that, and you're going to pay an extra almost double for Reading die sets, but they're fine. And anybody who shoots Reading die sets, I say more power to them, because they're good die sets too. So take care out there. We're lucky. We have a lot of good die sets. Bye for now.